I want to take this opportunity to send greetings to all disabled people across the Commonwealth and assure you that the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum, which I am the General Secretary of, Richard Rieser, is on your side and fighting to improve the conditions of the 450 million disabled people across the 56 countries of the Commonwealth. 51 of those countries are now in membership through their DPOs of the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum. We have an executive of 26, which represents impairments, different functions, and the regions. And we are seeking to build and consolidate that. So the few remaining countries of the Commonwealth that are not members, we are seeking to get you to join. Unity is strength, and we need that as we approach CHOGM 2024 in Samoa in October. Starting on the 20th of October, we will have a round of people's forums, women's forum, youth forum, business forum, and then the meeting of the heads of government. And we are seeking to get a disability inclusion protocol stroke strategy adopted by all of those. And we'll come back to that in the end. For the last year, we've been very successful in developing our activities across the Commonwealth, starting in January with our youth manifesto, which you can find on the website, which was developed by our youth forum. We then went on to develop a women's forum, who carried out a survey and sent representatives with the help of the Commonwealth Secretariat to New York to the March meeting on the status of women. And then that group met again and carried out further statements and produced policy documents. And we sent 2 representatives to the women's ministers meeting in the Bahamas, and some of our points were included and incorporated into the final statement. We also worked with the Youth Forum to develop our policy and have developed a training program that we are running currently for young disabled people. We have 158 from 41 Commonwealth countries enrolled on that. And that is looking at how you become a leader. So we've looked at the paradigm shift. We've looked at including diversity, and we've also looked at building organizations. We go on still with the 3 remaining modules to look at building democracy in our organizations, financial accountability and budget management, and then influencing government. Those are all free to use, the talks and the documents, on our website, commonwealthdpf.org. And there's also training material there from 2 years ago, our comprehensive 14-module disability equality training scheme, which is free to use. By anyone who comes online. So this program, we hope to repeat if we can get funding from the Commonwealth Secretariat on that. We went in June to the UN Conference of State Parties and took part in 6 side meetings, and we held 3 of our own with the support of the Commonwealth, the UK FCDO, the Barbadian government, and also other organizations, Disability Rights Fund, who are our main funder. And they were on youth and also on the position of women. Our chair, Sarah Kamau, contributed to a ComSec meeting with the New Zealand government on employment, and our officer for underrepresented groups, Emil Gauss, contributed to some meeting on neurodiversity. And so we had a good high profile there, which I think helped to establish us on the world stage. And we went on from that to, as I say, go to the Women's Forum, and then Saista Parwin, one of our youth members of the executive, went on to represent us at the Commonwealth Ministers of Youth meeting in London, run by Pakistan, but because of the floods in London. And again, some points were incorporated within the convention. We've also set up this year an environmental subcommittee, and Suvan Sharma was elected as the chair of that subcommittee and is currently representing us in Dubai at COP28, and we have a policy document which he is arguing for support, which particularly looks at the position of disabled people in emergency situations, making sure we are not left behind, and that there is pre-planning for emergencies, for evacuation, and looking after infrastructure and housing fabric has been destroyed, so that all emergency services should know where we are located. We've also been continuing our work on inclusive education, and we have a policy document on that, and which you can find on our website. And we are pushing that, and we'll be pushing it at the Commonwealth Education Ministers meeting in London coming up in the next few months. And it's very important that inclusive education is seen as not just integrating disabled children into the local fabric of schools, but actually transforming the fabric of those schools, changing the pedagogy, changing the curriculum and assessment, the design of the schools, and enlisting the community to help remove structural barriers, making sure that there are toilets with adequate privacy, which a wheelchair user and others can get into, which is very important, particularly for young women who are menstruating. We see a great dropout for them, and this shouldn't be happening. We're hoping to also address this in projects we're going to try and develop over the next couple of years at the grassroots through our member organizations, looking at inclusive education, employment, transition to employment, and challenging gender-based violence and lack of access to sexual and reproductive health, which are some of our key issues which we are arguing on. On this broadcast, you will get a message from Gaudence, the convener of our Women's Forum, and also from Kiembo, the convener of the Youth Forum, as well as Suvan from the Environment Forum. Our treasurer, Skada Louis from Malawi, is talking about how you take and engage with the process of scrutiny from the UN CRPD committee, which we think is very important to hold countries to account, the progress of Malawi at that process. And we are also keen over this next coming year to develop much higher profile on challenging stigma, which from our work, it appears is still a much greater factor on holding disabled people back across Africa and in South Asia and the Pacific, and indeed in the Caribbean as well, to say nothing of the more developed countries where these stereotypes are still very dominant in the media. State parties have a responsibility once they have ratified the convention, and all but one have in the Commonwealth, and we hope very much that Tonga, the last one that hasn't, will have done so by next October, under Article 8, to run public awareness campaigns, posters, but also to increase the profile of disabled people they employ at every level of state services. And we think that that's really important. We also think that the key thing to bring about transition is disability equality training. Look at the key transition that is embedded in the UN CRPD, which is the transition from looking at us as disabled people as objects to being active subjects, to move us from the charity medical model to the social model where we see the barriers as the problem and the human rights model. Those are two very different approaches to disability, and most governments that have ratified the convention are not moving beyond implementation to actually bringing in place time-structured and funded programs which actually bring about these transformations. We think the key to unlocking this logjam is to run disability equality training, first of all, for disabled people who want to be trainers. So we're going to run training the trainers in different regions, and then we're going to operate that to offer it to key decision makers and gatekeepers in the state system and eventually in the private sector as well, to challenge their own thinking and get on board with this transition that needs to take place. It's the lack of that which is leading to still majority of disabled children being in segregated schools, many people in segregated institutions, rather than living under Article 19 in the community with the right support. And therefore, we need also to look at the benefit system and how it is being adjudicated and operated. We need to look at employment and make sure that that is actually moving forward on an open market basis, and see the phasing out of institutions, sheltered workshops, and so on. We need to look at communications and accessibility under Article 9 and making sure it's not just that there are aids and appliances for people manufactured where possible by disabled people with funding to set up their own manufacturing. And we also need to make sure that the infrastructure is accessible and that the messaging on our internet and computer systems is accessible for people who need audio description, screen readers, and easy read and simplified pictograms, so that access can be for all, not excluding the large numbers of neurodiverse and people with intellectual impairments across the Commonwealth. We think there are 450 million disabled people in the Commonwealth, and they are lagging far behind on all of our charter commitments, and we need something particular to break this logjam. And so we are moving to mobilize with a Commonwealth disability inclusion protocol strategy, which we want member states to agree to support by CHOGM and vote through. This will put forward principles and practical things to do, both for the Secretariat to implement, but also for states to take up and to cooperate on, maximizing the experience. So things like information dashboard, when we can gather decent statistics of what's happening to disabled people on a disaggregated basis, country by country, such as an information desk where innovative solutions to the barriers are shared across countries, such as disability equality training for all state parties, a collaboration between the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum and the Human Rights Unit at the Secretariat, such as continuing our cooperation with different parts of the Secretariat, such as on women, on education, and on youth, so that more and more the message is there that this isn't an optional extra, it is an essential starting point. And that means when we run meetings, when we plan meetings, that they are thinking accessibility in terms of venues, in terms of information, but also representation, making sure our voice is there on the platforms. So we have a lot to do, and we would welcome your support. We would welcome extra support. Those few organizations that haven't joined need to join and participate. We hope to have a further General Assembly in early 25 to look at policy and replace the leadership, put them up for accountability, look at what we've been doing, and move forward with what we hope will be more secured funding, so that we have a higher profile across the Commonwealth and be able to collaborate both with the Secretariat and all the various state parties to really move inclusion strategy forward across the Commonwealth. So I wish you all well on this International Disabled People's Day, and hope you can all rise to the task that is now necessary for us to achieve full equality. Thank you.